Probably the last event for the PlayStation 5 happened today, and it showcased a whole host of new games, featuring, of course, some new gameplay of Demon's Souls, the announcement of God of War Ragnarok, and of course a few others, in addition to Spider-Man Miles Morales gameplay. But what it didn't touch on was pre-orders and the actual launch lineup of the system. And now these are pretty strange exclusions to me, because these are some of the biggest points of a console: the pre-order date and the games that actually launch with the system. Now, starting with the pre-order date, you might be aware of this, but it is actually tomorrow. And in other parts of the world, it has already actually begun. In fact, if you look online right now, Target actually offered pre-orders in the US, but it quickly sold out. But back to the most important thing here, that launch lineup. So actually, it includes 6 games. And I have to be honest, when a Sony exec said like a week or two ago that this PlayStation 5 was going to be the biggest launch lineup for a PlayStation console ever, I didn't know it was going to be this good. So starting right off with the most obvious is Astros Playroom, which is of course pre-installed on the PlayStation 5. This isn't much of a surprise. We already kind of knew this in the original Sony event in June, but it still looks really good, and I'm honestly surprised they didn't show up a little more on this latest event, but I guess it's understandable because it'll already be out on the PlayStation 5, and it doesn't look to be that big of a title. Now, next up is one that I actually am pretty surprised on. It's actually Destruction All-Stars. This looks like a fun game, but for some reason, it's priced at $70 US. This seems to me like kind of ridiculous, because at that price point, I could buy 2 games, I could buy so many other things that offer more content, because this seems to be more in the vein of a Fortnite sort of Rocket League crossover, if you look at the announcement trailer, and there's nothing wrong with that. They're both high-quality games, despite a lot of the hate they get. Now, I'm not a big Fortnite fan, but I do appreciate what it did, and I was interested in this game. But now, at that price point, I'm a little less interested, given how expensive it really is compared to other titles. Okay, so the next one is pretty big. It's actually Sackboy: A Big Adventure. If you remember, in June I made a video about this, talking about how Sackboy: A Big Adventure could ruin everything for the franchise. I, of course, made some mistakes in that, but I kind of learned from that, and I know that this will be a high-quality game. So it's a little mystifying, again, that there was no gameplay trailer, there was no update, there was no announcement in that event that was supposed to be this last big hurrah into the PlayStation 5 launch, and it forced them to go on Twitter and post this. It's very exciting, though, that this game is going to be out so soon. I actually thought it was going to be an early 2021 game, maybe in like February and January, because they'd want to spread it out, but they're actually really condensing a lot of their lineup into the launch. And it's really exciting, because if you're going to be there day one, you got a lot to play, we'll say that. So Sackboy: A Big Adventure is a pretty big announcement. But again, it's a 3D platformer in the same vein as Astros Playroom and Mario 3D World, of course, so it's still targeting that same vein. And if you want to branch off into a more mainstream title, we'll say, we have Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, okay? So this is actually $50 for the base edition and $70 for the Ultimate Edition. We'll get into what each one does, but first of all, this is really baffling to me, more so than any other game we've discussed here so far. It flashed a date of holiday 2020 on the event, and then about an hour or two later, they said, oh, it's actually at launch. So it just seems so strange, and I think this might have been a little rushed, or it might have not had time to change the text and stuff like that, but again, it doesn't make much sense to me. So, that Ultimate Edition, now, it's $20 more. Why would you want to buy it? Well, I'll tell you why. It includes Marvel's Spider-Man, the original 2018 title. And of course, that is $20 now on like PlayStation 4 with their, they cut the price, of course. But the reason why this one is special, especially for newcomers like me into the PlayStation ecosystem, because I skipped out on the PlayStation 4, is it's actually a remaster. See, this is Marvel Spider-Man Remaster, and if you go to a tweet by Insomniac, they say that this isn't a simple remaster. It actually has upscaled resolutions, textures, they remade some things, so it really seems to take some features of the PlayStation 5 and account here. It's not just a simple port. And that is fantastic because that's going to be the best way to experience this game. It's not just going to be another way to experience this game. So for me personally, I'm going all the way with the Ultimate Edition just because it contains 2 games, 2 fantastic games probably. We don't know Miles Morales, of course, but it does look great. And really just fantastic so far. And to end things off, we have one of the biggest games so far. Demon's Souls. This is again a $70 game by Bluepoint, and it looks just fantastic. If I had to say, it was probably the most visually impressive game out of that PlayStation 5 event that just took place earlier today. And for good reason. I mean, this game, if you told somebody that this was a remake of an 11-year-old game, they'd be like, this is a new game. It looks so different from the original. Even if you just go back, watch some trailers, and really get an idea of how good this game looks, you have to be watching it in 1080p or 1440p, 4K at 60 frames per second. Because at that point, it looks almost indistinguishable from real life or any other games that's ever taken place in this vein. It's truly an incredibly visually stunning game, and to see it at launch like that just solidifies that this isn't your regular PlayStation console. You have Sackboy Big Adventure, Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, and Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered, Destruction All-Stars, Demon's Souls, and Astros Playroom, all in the same day. It's really exciting. And this does, beg the question if there will be a huge dry period for the PlayStation 5. I doubt it, personally, because we've already seen so many new games be announced and stuff for 2021 and 2022 even. So it doesn't seem likely that all of a sudden there would just be this 6-month drought. And another thing that's actually very interesting that ties into this whole thing is that similar to Xbox, most of these games, actually all of these games, are going to be on the PlayStation 4 as an addition to the PlayStation 5. So it's really having that cross-gen feature, and, Xbox got a lot of flack for this, and a lot of Sony fans were saying, hey, it's not going to be able to take full, power of the system. And now Sony's doing the same thing, so it's really kind of funny. But I think it makes sense, because they've proven that with cross-gen titles, it will still look fantastic. Like, for example, Miles Morales. That looks like next-gen, despite the fact that it's also being on last-gen hardware. So, it's really interesting, this entire launch lineup, because I haven't seen many videos yet detailing and how all those games are going to be there at launch, which is absurd for any system to launch with. I don't know if we've ever seen this before, because you have a heavy hitter like Demon's Souls, which is huge, targeting that mature audience in the action-adventure RPG genre. You have Destruction All-Stars for the more esports, we could say casual-oriented crowd. Astros Playroom to detail the tech demo and be more of an example of what the PlayStation DualSense can do. Sackboy Big Adventure, which again targets to that 3D platformer crowd. And to finish it all off, Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, which is sort of a gateway between Demon's Souls and Sackboy in my mind, because it's sort of like a teen rated. I don't know if that's like the actual rating, but it just seems like a perfect launch lineup for this system. And I'm really excited because this solidified the PlayStation 5 as a console you don't want to deal with. And I hate to say it, but I don't think the Xbox, even with the Series S at that $300 price point, will be able to compete with all of these exclusives because they're looking fantastic. They showcase the hardware. That's something Xbox has to deal with, but I think eventually, within a year or two, they will be able to showcase what the Series X and S can do. But as of right now, I am extremely hyped for the PlayStation 5, and let me know if there's anything I'm missing, because there is obviously a ton of third parties, such as, 2K21, which I know doesn't get a lot of people excited, Fortnite, and maybe GTA 5, I'm not too sure on that one, but just, this is so exciting to me.